Welcome to the Art of Likeability, where you learn the secrets to becoming more likable in all areas of your life. Increasing your likability improves your relationships, and improved relationships increases your success in all areas of your life. Let's jump in with your host, Arel Moody.
All right, what's going on, family? Arel Moody here, host of The Art of Likeability, where we show you how to improve your likability so you can improve your relationships. Improve relationships lead to improved success. And if you don't want better relationships and more happiness and more success, you are listening to the wrong podcast. And today I'm so excited. We're continuing our super awesome interviews with really intelligent people. And we have someone very special and very unique on the line who is just a genius of helping everyday people learn how to build emotional intelligence and how to, it doesn't matter if you're born with it or not born with it, you can learn how to become more charismatic and more charming. And how would he know about charm? Well, this guy is the founder of The Art of Charm, and he has academies that does boot camps to help build people's charisma and skill sets and emotional intelligence, and has a fantastic podcast called The Art of Charm, which is one of the #1 podcasts on iTunes, and just has amazing interviews, amazing downloads, and just amazing content. So he's an incredible guy, and he's been featured in Cosmopolitan, Sirius Radio, Psychology Today, Men's Health, NBC, Saturday Night Live, The Today Show, Huffington Post. I mean, just all over the board, people have been interested in what our guest Jordan Harbinger has to say. So, Jordan, welcome from The Art of Charm to The Art of Likability. Thanks for being here, brother.
Thanks, I appreciate it. That was a super amazing intro.
Well, it's easy when you have super amazing content. And I'm really interested in, delving into your story, and I would love to cover today how people can have the most impressive first impression, how to use body language. I know these are things that you're fantastic about, but I know that whenever I am learning from someone or interested in attending someone's program or reading their book, my first question is always, who is this person and why should I listen to them? So, Jordan, tell me a little bit more about how this whole Art of Charm came about and how you went from an average Joe to being someone who kind of unlocked this treasure chest that so many people want to understand and know.
Sure. So basically how I got started with it was I used to work at this law firm on Wall Street, and the partner that hired me, the rumor was that he made more money than everybody else, but he was just never in the office. So I thought, okay, that's strange. I don't get why that's the case. Maybe his dad is one of the, top founders or something, or he's independently wealthy. I don't know. So I decided to go out to coffee with him. I think actually HR sort of made him take me to coffee because he was supposed to be my mentor and I never even saw him. And he's like, all right, ask me anything. And I'm sure he expected me to say something like, how do real estate finance transactions work? But instead I was like, how come, and I didn't care about the job at this point, obviously. I asked him, how come everyone says you make more money and yet you're never in the office? Mm. And he was like, well, I am doing something that's more important, because I pointed out the fact that, hey, there's all these other lawyers here at 1:00 in the morning on a Sunday. How come you're not? Why are you gone? What are you doing that's so important? Or do you do you have a ton of kids? Do you work from home? What's the deal? And he said, well, actually, all these guys that are here really late in the game and they're in the day, he said, yeah, those people are very important. They're technically skilled. And so what that means is that they're valuable from their hourly rate. And those people out there who are familiar with the law game know that it's all about billable hours and not a whole lot else, to be quite frank. And so, when you're looking at your billables and things like that, you're looking at technically skilled attorneys just putting in as much time as they possibly can. And that's really their chief value proposition, if you will. And so now you're looking at the idea that he's never there. And it's like, well, why? And so what he told me is that he's out generating business for the firm. And that was the primary value that he brought to the table. And I thought to myself, okay, wait a minute. So what you're telling me is and this is a guy from Brooklyn with a tan. So and so, I'm thinking, wait a minute. So you're going out, you're on golf courses, jujitsu, charity, this and that, ballroom dancing or whatever I, had in my head at the time. And, you're sitting here telling me that the whole point, the whole reason that you're doing this is because this is somehow more valuable than what all these technically skilled lawyers are doing, which is awful work. So, your people skills are more valuable than your technical skills as a lawyer. And I was astounded, right? Because I hated doing all of the technical drafting and all that stuff. It was the worst. And so I thought to myself, this is an epic discovery, because what you're essentially saying, and what he explained as well, was that he couldn't even be fired, and he had to be compensated more than the other guys, because if he left, he would take his client book with him. So you couldn't even get rid of a guy, even if you're paying that guy like $1 million a year. If he was bringing in $2 million of profit, there was no reason to get rid of him, even if everybody decided he wasn't a good fit or he wasn't, there and never showed up. It didn't matter, because he was basically, it was like scoreboard. No matter what you could do, no matter what everybody else thought, at the end of the day, the managing partners were like, well, the scoreboard says that this guy is bringing in more money than he requires. And so we don't care. What everything else matters not. And I thought that was insanely salient and interesting. So I decided to throw all my chips in on that, right? Because here's the thing. If I work my butt off and I'm competing against all of these insanely hard workers all of the time, I will at best get to the point where I'm in the office on Sunday at 1:00 in the morning, because you can't outwork. If it's all about hours, you can't outwork anybody else that's just decided to sacrifice their entire life, just, even if you have, right? Because there's only 24 hours in the day. However, people skills apparently, especially in business, were more rare and more valuable than technical skill because of that, or in addition to that. Hard to say, right? Doesn't matter. So what that taught me was, wait a minute, I can get really good with this people skills thing, maybe not do exactly what he's doing, or maybe bring in more business to even do better, but I don't have to do the part that I hate, and I can do the part that I like. Where's the catch? And the catch is really that most people are terrible at it. That's really the catch. So if you're listening to this podcast, you're listening to the Art of Charm podcast, or coming to our programs or something like that, you're getting a skill set that most people lack that is actually more valuable than technical skill. And so that's kind of like the big secret. And, there's people listening right now, I'm sure, that are like, oh, that sucks that it's all about who you know. And at the Art of Charm, and what I would argue, and I'm sure that you would agree, well, you let me know, is that thank goodness it's all about who you know, because now we don't have to be the best at everything.
Right.
We just have to be good with people.
Right. Yeah, so true. So true. It's funny because the power of people is the ability to make one phone call and make a problem go away, or make one phone call and, get the thing that you needed. Everything at the end of the day, and I agree with that truly, is controlled by a person. If you want to I remember this one time I had I needed to do a video shoot for a product that I was putting together. I needed a really good background, and a friend of mine owned office space in the financial district in Manhattan. I put out a phone call. He said, yeah, no problem, I'll let you have it. He didn't charge me because he was a friend, and he let me do it. The turnaround time was, less than a week. So knowing that person allowed me that access, where if I didn't have that friend, it would have cost me an arm and a leg. I probably would have had to do it, so far out. So what you're saying about, hey, let's build those people skills, let's build those connections with individuals to make our lives easier and do what we love is exactly what I think. If people can couple that with great work ethic and great skill set, they become unstoppable. So tell me about that. So you hear this and you go, oh man, this is something special. What then goes through your head to actually create the Art of Charm, and how do you learn all of these skill sets that you learned?
Sure. So what I started immediately doing was going, okay, I don't need to learn. Well, I guess I shouldn't say I don't need to learn legal skills, but what I realized is everybody says you learn these things on the job. So why am I even stressing out about legal briefs and drafting and stuff like that? What I need to be doing, as important or more important than my legal education, is figuring out how to be good with people. So I started reading networking books. I took Dale Carnegie, all the classes that they offered. They're okay. They're not that in depth, unfortunately, because they're catering to the lowest common denominator, and they're very basic. But I read, and I went to seminars, and I took sales classes and things like that. And I was like, These are cool, but there's got to be some sort, like, where's like the Hogwarts? Where's like the dark arts of this, where it's like, they're like, introduce yourself and have strong eye contact. And hey, that's great. But where's the ninja stuff that separates like these multi-million-dollar guru sales dudes and like on camera / stage presenters, or like these self-help guys that have fill stadiums like Tony Robbins type dudes? Where's the secret sauce? And a lot of those guys purport to sell that, but the problem is it's so hard to teach that to 800 people in a room. So I just kept seeking people out that could help me with that, and eventually led me to a bevy of just different coaches, books, seminars that had nothing to do with personal charisma, such as I have a friend who's like an undercover cop, and I was like, teach me how you get rapport with gangsters and thugs and stuff. And he's like, it's all about listening. So I had him take me on a ride along and show me this stuff. So
Wow.
you know what I mean? So I started incorporating all this stuff in, and I thought, this is actually really important skills, because nobody's really teaching this, and nobody's really learning this, except for cops will learn one skill set when they deal with gangsters. Salesmen will learn another skill set when they're being trained in their corporation. So we put it all together, and we're one of the only places apparently that's doing that. We routinely get like CIA agents and stuff like that, and all of that, like military special forces types and stuff like that come through. And they're like, the only other type of things that we've learned were at our training courses, and even then they weren't this in depth because there's 50 guys in the room, or it's over a year long, and it's a career thing for the CIA. Like, nobody can really do that for civilians, right? It's impossible. And so they're like, this is the closest thing we've ever seen, and some of it's even better because it's more diverse. So that's pretty cool, in my opinion, right? So we really started to grab these diverse skill sets. And it's really powerful for people who want to learn anything about how to sell themselves, their business, and even just high ticket items, of course, which, selling yourself is essentially the bottom line. Because once you're selling something that's $10,000, $25,000, $1 million, if you're selling, computer systems to companies like that, people are buying you, right? Mm-hmm. Because unless you're the only game in town, then people have to trust and like you in order to buy from you, unless your price is just so much lower. And even then, a lot of times, I know just as a small businessman, I will pay more to somebody that I consider trustworthy, because I'm literally figuring that in as insurance, that so-and-so, that I know Arl's going to take care of the problem, right? I might pay you 1/3 above what the other guy's asking, but I know that if at 1:00 p.m. on a Sunday, my calendar system that I bought from you is not working, I can be like, hey man, sorry to bug you, but this isn't working. And I'm not going to get your outsourced assistant from another country being like, sure, I'll take a message and email it to him, and he should respond within 48 hours. Stuff. I know I can text you and be like, listen, man, and you'll go, oh, you know what? Let me figure that out for you, because that's a big problem for your business, because I know you. You know what I mean? And that is worth the extra money, because that to me is insurance. And so people buy you always. And even when people don't realize they buy you, they buy you. Like, you might shop around at a car dealership and you might be looking for just the guy who will go lowest on the price. But at the end of the day, you're kind of picking the guy who says, listen, you don't need the hybrid. You're never going to spend that much in gas because you don't drive far enough. You should buy this one. You trust that person. There's a premium on that, and you pay for that. And that is shown by science. We know this. This isn't something I'm like making up to try and sell you people skills. And I don't need to sell you people skills or your audience, because they know that that's important. That's why they're here in the first place, right?
Yeah. And, there was an exercise that a mentor of mine took me through, which really made me realize how everything you said is totally spot on. He said, take any, let's say like a laundromat or whatever take whatever current business you're in, right? When you listening, I'm actually talking to you, take the profession you're in right now and list all of the reasons why someone would do business with your company. And then he said, imagine that you got fired and the next day you were hired by your number one competitor. Now list all of the reasons why a person should do business with your competitor. And he said, what you'll notice is those reasons are pretty much going to be the same.
They're exactly the same.
It's the same thing, but who you are and what you bring to the table, that's the X factor. That's the difference between the guy who, like you said, at your law firm situation, he, pay him $1 million if he's bringing in 2 million, we're okay with that. And that's the key of charm, and that's the key of, really building what you referred to, which was the know, like, trust factor, which is game changing. I recently purchased a car from my father, and the car salesman I bought it from, I drove all the way down to an area in Pennsylvania. One, because Pennsylvania on the East Coast, they have better cars than the New York City area. But I also drove it because I knew the guy. I trusted the guy. I knew that he wouldn't, if there was a problem, he would fix it. And there was a problem with the car a couple of months later. And without a batting an eye, he fixed the car and made the phone calls that were necessary. And that goes so far. So if I ever need to buy another car again, I know where I'm going. There's no question. If someone ever asks me where should I buy a car from, I'm going to recommend my guy. So that pays for itself, not only in the short term, in my opinion, but also in the long term as well.
Yeah, it's impressive. That's a great example I might steal because I think it's very true. If you're buying, it's even things as diverse as, Apple or PC, you could sell those two things. The reasons are going to be largely similar, but at the end of the day, you're right. If you're just a salesman and you're going from one car dealership to the next, you start to realize, wow, these are kind of a commodity, right? Mm-hmm. And all you have at the end is the trust, both in the company and brand and in the person who does the deal. And that's why there's a lot of really bad salesmen out there, and nobody says, man, this guy's a bad salesman. He just wasn't persuasive. Sure, you hear that sometimes with new people, but usually a bad salesman you think is bad because they're not trustworthy and they're unable to convey trust. Right? Or they're unable to be likable. That's what makes a bad salesman. Well, if that's the difference between a good salesman and a bad salesman, then obviously it's the most important key or trait of a salesman. And at the end of the day, if you're listening to this and you're not in sales, or you think you're not in sales, you probably are in sales and you just don't know it yet, right? Mm-hmm. Because you're trying to get people to like and trust you. It's a sales skill set like any other. You're just not negotiating a price. Well, depends on your profession, I suppose. But at the end of the day, you're probably not negotiating a price, right? You're negotiating people to do business with you, hire you, etc. And it's at the end of the day, it's really the same thing.
Yeah, and and let's talk about that, because I think that is so important, that at the end of the day, if it's going to be one factor that is the difference between being a high level performer, and you're right, by the way, and I just need to emphasize it because this is something that is so crucially important. If you are a manager, you have to sell your employees on working harder or going the extra mile. If you're a teacher, you have to sell your students on, believing in the lesson plan and wanting to be it. Everything that we do, for lack of a better term, is sales. And it's just a matter of realizing what it means. And I think at its core, it's that idea of persuasion. It's the idea of intent. It's the idea of getting people to be organized around an idea, whether it's the idea as a product you're selling, an idea that you're organizing, investors that you're pitching. They have to believe that you are the one that I can trust. You are the one that if I give you my money or my time, which are two of the most valuable things to most people, it's going to be safe. So then tell me, how do we, let's talk you've done this for a long time now. You've built some great ideas. Let's say I'm someone who says, hey, I want to build that kind of instant rapport. I want to make an amazing first impression so that when people see me, they say, this is someone I want to invest my time, resources, money, whatever it might be into. What are some things that you found that people do right? And what are some things that you found that people do wrong?
Sure. So one of the things that a lot of people will do right is they'll decide, I'm going to become more outgoing. And there's a lot of things that go into the skill set of being outgoing, right? And I'm not going to sit here and tell you be more outgoing. That's terrible, non-actionable advice. But I will say that a lot of people will do that right, and they'll start talking to everybody. And the problem is, if you've ever been to a networking event, you know that there's all these people who are like, hi, I run a photo retouching business. Here's my business card. If you ever need photos retouched, give me a call. And they just go from person to person saying that. And you're thinking, wow, you've got hustle, but it sucks. It's terrible. And then you see these other people at networking events that are just, maybe they get to know one or two people there, and they come away with a lasting connection, and that's great, business or not. And then, of course, all the people who are really good at networking are not going to networking events because they don't need to, and they know it's a huge waste of their time, generally speaking. Right. Wow. And we can dig into that a little bit if you want in a second. But I think one of the things that people, aside from that, what they do wrong is they'll do something like, well, I'm just gonna like sort of do the I don't know, there's a word for it. Was it the spaghetti method where it's like you take a bowl of spaghetti and you just whip it at the wall and you see what sticks. And
Right.
that's really what people are doing when they're like walking around kind of throwing business cards around like ninja stars, right? Hoping they get stuck in a client, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it just doesn't work because I know I go to these entrepreneur events and speak and stuff like that, and people will either email me after and go, hey, you looked really busy. I didn't want to talk to you and bug you. And I'm like, that's stupid. You know, like, man, you should have just come and said hi. You're probably the only normal person I met there or would have met there. And then you go to, that same event and there's people who are like, hey, Jordan, really like what you're doing. Boom, business card. And I'm thinking, oh, you're so obnoxious. But I don't say anything. So I'll humor that person. But it's funny because, speakers, if you speak at enough events, you'll look at another speaker who's talking to somebody and they'll look at you like, help me. And you go, hey, no, we got to run, man. We got a thing. And then he's like, yeah, that thing, if we don't get to it, it's going to be a problem, and it's like, yeah, sure. Let's bounce. We got to fly to Taipei or whatever, and it becomes this like really massive inconvenience. And we think, oh, why do we do these things? But then there's people, I ran into a guy at a Starbucks and he was like, hey, are you Jordan Harbinger? And I thought, okay, who's messing with me right now? But it was really cool. And he goes, hey, I just bought your product. I want to sign up for your in-person boot camp and stuff. I just wanted to say hi. I really like what you do with your show. It's changed my life. And I thought, that's great. And he emailed me later like, oh, I hope I didn't bother you with your friend. And I'm thinking, no, that is exactly the type of thing you should do, is just no agenda, right? He didn't ask me for advice. He didn't ask me for tips. He didn't email me a pitch for his thing he wants to publicize on my podcast. Like, there's just no agenda there. And even if he's long playing it and later on he's going to ask me for something, that's fine. Because right now it's coming across like, oh, he just wants to say hi or he just wants to help out with something. And that's something that's so rare because usually people are after something and it's just super, super obvious. And I know a lot of people are thinking, so what should I do? I should hide my agenda? My agenda at these things is to get business. Well, your agenda I'd say don't hide it. Wear it on your sleeve as much as you want, but your agenda should shift to what can I get from what can I get from people to how can I help other people get what they want? And stop me if everybody on your show has already talked about this. How can I get other people what they want so that they eventually want to help me get what I want, right? And you can actually forget the latter part. You can just work on helping other people get what they want, and the other part literally happens automatically where people go, man, thanks, Jordan. You've made so many useful introductions to people that I want to have on my show. I would like to have you on mine or promote this, or, hey, let me know if you need me to email my list for you or something, because of reciprocity. And it's when you help other people get what they want, and this is sort of a Dale Carnegie principle on steroids, they will help you because it actually, at the end of the day, helps them get more from you, right? And it's subconscious, and it makes everybody feel good, so it's win-win, which is not that common these days.
So talk about that mindset. You're walking into an event. There's maybe potential leads, or there are people that you want to get to know and build your network. If it was you, Jordan, walking into an event, what's your mindset? And what are some maybe phrases that maybe if you have a pocket phrase that you use to introduce yourself, or a way that you kind of pull out of someone what they're looking for and how you might be able to help them, what would that look like if you were doing it? So maybe we can pull some gems from it.
Sure. So if I were just approaching somebody randomly to try and meet them, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. So, you're at an event, maybe you're attending an event that other people are speaking and you're not speaking, and or you're at a networking event, if you do go to those, and you just want to know like, hey, I'm in a social setting. I'm going to be interacting with people that I may not know. I don't want to be the guy who's ninja starring business cards, but I do want to connect with people and grow my profession or grow my business. What mindset would you take into that, and what kind of things do you say to pull out of people what they're looking for so you can begin the helping process?
Sure. So I would say that the key there is literally like, hey, I saw your talk on X, Y, and Z. It's really interesting. What are your goals for this material? Are you hoping to get it further, more exposure, that type of thing? And they might be like, yeah, I'm actually working on a book. And eventually this talk is going to be sort of like the elevator pitch for the book. And I'm thinking, oh, okay, well, I happen to know a lot of places that are really good at selling books that you may or may not know about, such as, well, my own show, for one thing. Can I offer you some publicity on my own show because it's popular and it's got a lot of people that buy books and your content seems like a good fit. And, it's like, oh, well, yeah, I would love that. I would love to be able to do something like that. Or if I can't help them, which is, a lot of junior guys are like, well, great, I don't have a huge show in iTunes, Jordan. Thanks a lot, jerk. And so if you have quote unquote nothing to offer, no money and no connections, what I say is leverage your network that you're building. So maybe you meet me at one event and you say, how can I help you? And I say, I want to promote my podcast in as many areas as possible. And you go, okay, I'm not really even sure what that is. But throughout your sort of travels over the next days, weeks, months, years, whatever, you start meeting other people and they are great guests for a podcast, or maybe they are other podcasters or people that do media. You might say, hey, listen, Jordan, we met a couple of months ago. I want you to meet my friend R.L. Moody. He also runs a podcast, and it seems like it's in a similar niche. Maybe you guys should meet up or talk about something. And I would be thankful to that random third party for my connection with you because it is a good fit. I'm on your show. You're coming on my show. We both have successful shows in a great niche. Where helping each other makes a lot of sense and the whole is greater than the sum of its parts, right? So to speak. So that's a big deal for me. So now I'm like, wow, thanks, random guy who met me at a networking event. Now, if you do that dozens of times, something's going to shake out or even if that same person was like, I hope that connection worked out for you. By the way, I have a question. How do I start a podcast or how does it work, getting people on your show? Because I'm writing a book myself. I'm much more likely, and I mean like 1,000 times more likely to reply to that person and go, sure, I'm happy to help XYZ 123, ABC. It doesn't matter because I'm willing to either connect him to somebody in my network that can help him myself, etc. Because he's already shown that he's going to help me without something in return directly. Now, it's what most people will do wrong is they'll say something like, I got an email today. In fact, I'll read it right now if you want. It's Bad Networking 101.
All right,
ready?
Cool.
Let me dig it up.
This is real world what not to do scenarios here.
100%. Let me see if I can get like the whole backlog here.
Sure.
This guy wrote in and he said, and I won't keep you waiting too long. I just want to make sure I start from the beginning so it makes sense.
And no names. We'll keep it anonymous.
Right. We'll call him John or whatever, unless I slip up. He wrote in and said something like, and I can't find the absolute first message, but it doesn't matter because he wrote in saying, hi, I'm running this perfumery company and I think it's a good fit for your show. How do I get my stuff on your show? And I was like, so I wrote back, hey, I saw your message. Are you interested in sponsorship? That's what we offer brands by way of partnership. Because he was like, I want to partner with you. And I was like, okay, are you offering me ad dollars or are you just asking me to advertise your stuff for free like every other person who emails me all day long?
Right.
And he wrote, well, hey, Jordan, I just want to get this in the hands of the men who could use it. And I'm thinking, yeah, you and literally every other provider of a product anywhere in human history. That's the whole idea, right? And he said, maybe we can do some sort of giveaway, or maybe we could do some promotion and you could do a commission on the sales. In other words, hey, how about you sell my stuff for me? Or you give away my stuff for me in exchange for free advertising. And I'm thinking, you're going to give me some of your stuff to advertise in exchange for what? A bottle of cologne that I could easily buy for 1% of what it would cost a sponsor to advertise on my show? That makes no sense. Right? He's only thinking about how it can benefit him. And he goes, we're not looking to make a lot, but it would be great if we could break even because we're a new company. Hey, I get it. I was a new company for a long time. Makes perfect sense to me. Doesn't mean that I want to give away stuff that I have for free because now I run a business and I always did. And now that I'm successful, I don't owe you anything. Right. And then he's like, let's work something out. Let me know what you think. And then he makes another super huge mistake. He goes, I'd love to speak with you over the phone and pitch you the idea because I'm sure you'd love it. So now not only is he asking for something for free, but he wants me to spend time talking with him so that he gets a chance to sell me. And I'm thinking, wow, you really don't get how busy people operate. And I'm not trying to be self-important like, I'm so busy, I don't have time for you. But the idea is you're asking me for a sales appointment and you're going to sell me something that we've already established offers me zero value, right?
Right.
And then I'm like, hey, it doesn't sound like a fit, though. Good luck. And he's like, hey, I bought into your vision. I believe that part of being a good man is smelling good and having the confidence to do great things. And I'm like, this is such a hacky, pitch based on nothing. He clearly like looked at my website or something and was like, oh, smelling good gives you confidence. I mean, even if that's true, which there's no science behind it, it's just like it's just like a hacky, what do you call it? Like a hat tip to like what we do to try and play on me. And I'm like,
sure.
And I'm just like, he's like, even if you just mention us on your Twitter or Facebook page, which, you know, that sounds small because it sounds like, oh, you know, all you have to do is mention us. And I'm thinking, I've probably spent upwards of $50,000 cultivating a social media presence over the last 8 years. And now you want me to leverage it to advertise your brand again for free.
Right.
And I go on to explain this and things like that. And he's like, oh, I understand there's opportunity cost. How about just shouting us out in your social media? We can add you to our website as a sponsor. And I'm thinking, this is a company that has no traffic. Like, there's just no value here at all. And then he goes, this is probably a stretch, but I want to participate in one of your podcasts. I think we can help people smell better and advertise our company. And I'm just thinking, delete. You know, I'm not even going to.
It's not getting it now. Yeah. And it's interesting how many people, when they're approaching other people, they're coming solely from the focus of how can you help me? And, oh, it's no big deal for you to help me, so do this for me. And it's like, well, that's not how you really build relationships. One of the words you said, which I liked, which I'd like to delve more into, is the idea of the long play. And for a lot of people, they're like, well, we need it now. We need to like boost sales now. We need to market stuff now. We need to do, like, I need to get a job, so I need to ask people to hire me right now. And there's a phrase I love that says, you know, slow is fast and fast is slow, where the things that we think are quick, like let me hammer as many people and say, hey, could you hire me because I need a job? Or, hey, could you promote my stuff? And I can, you know, make contact with 50 people in a day. We think that that's fast, but that's actually the slowest way of getting quality people. The long play or the slow build really builds a relationship. So if you were to give some advice on, you know, if someone were to want to get in with you and they were going to use the long play, you know, we have the introductions, which I think is a great way for people to make a great relationship and a first impression. Find a way to introduce people to other people who could be of use to them. What's other mindsets or what's other strategies people can have in their kind of Batman utility tool belt, if you will, to say, hey, when I meet people, let me run through this mental checklist of things I can do to, you know, increase my charm, to increase my likability. You know, so we have intros as one. What are a few other things you think can help with that first impression?
Interesting. So I think, you know, I always talk a lot about nonverbal communication. That's one of the sort of mainstays of the art of charm. And so what I mean by that is a lot of times people will do something like, all right, well, I've got all these sort of tactical skill sets down. But the thing is, at the end of the day, we make a lot of our decisions about people, about other people, based on these first impressions. And so the way in nonverbal communication is where it's at. Our subconscious mind reads this all of the time. So, and you know this, let me try to give an example. If you walk into a room and there's a guy with tattoos on his face and he's really like big and he's wearing a sleeveless shirt and muscular and he's frowning, you don't have to think about this person and whether or not they look friendly, or you're not making a conscious evaluation of them at all. In fact, if you have a little kid with you, a lot of times the little kid will be like, mommy, and like hide behind your leg. They don't walk up like they would to somebody who looks friendly and go, hi, right? I mean, little kids are extremely perceptive when it comes to that. And they don't have societal filters. That's why little kids walk up and go, why are you so fat? You know, to like adults and things like that. And it's really funny. And so we do that in our heads. We sort of forget about that filter. It goes under the radar completely. And so what that means for us is that in terms of our nonverbal communication, that's where the real first impression is made. So if we walk into a room and we're like slinking around and we don't really say anything, we think our first impression is made when we want it to be. And so here's the sort of like major difference, and I'll put it into a dating context here just for the sake of clarity and entertainment.
Sure.
If you're a guy and you walk into the bar and you see a bunch of girls that are cute and you're feeling a little bit insecure, you might go, I'm going to have a drink first, right? And the girls are there talking and they're showing each other photos on their phone and laughing, and you're like, maybe I'll have another drink. And you're pretending to watch the basketball game. And then you get a little liquid courage and you saunter over there after a couple of the girls go to the bathroom, so it seems like a less intimidating group. And you walk up and you're like, hey, what are you guys drinking? And they're like, it's girls' night out, sorry, bye. Or they turn their back and they're like, ew. right? And you think,
Right.
oh man, girls are so mean. This is terrible. The reason they're doing that is not because of anything that you've done in the last 5 minutes. It's because of everything that you did. When you walked in, they might have turned around and spotted you and gone, oh, that guy looks kind of cute and he's dressed sharply. And then you had a drink and then they went, oh, he's just like kind of hanging out, not doing anything, pretending to watch the basketball game. He's hanging out with his friends, but all his friends are kind of like staring at us. They're going to come talk to us, but they're obviously not really that out. They're not that ballsy and they're not that interesting because they would have already made a move by now. What's the deal? Ew, they keep staring at us. Are those creepy guys that are going to stare at us all night and not talk to us? And then finally you walk up there and you're like, hey, what's going on? And they're like, no. They already know. They've seen you have a couple of drinks. Your first impression was made half an hour ago.
Right.
When you walked in. And that's the same thing in business. You know, there's a lot of times people will write me and go, hey, I want to pitch you on this idea. And I'm thinking, no. Or even if they're like, hey, Jordan, I just wanted to see if you're free for coffee because I'm going to be in town. I automatically, maybe I've heard a bunch of bad stuff about this company from other people. I might say, I'm really busy, dude. Sorry, I can't. And then they go, oh, cool. How about a quick phone call? And then I go, what do you want? Right? What do you want? And they go, oh, I just want to see if I can get my perfume on your show. And I go, yeah, that's what I thought. You pitched the same thing to my buddy, and we had dinner yesterday, and your reputation precedes you. See you later. You know?
Right.
And that's the first impression. And that's the thing. People don't realize that your nonverbal communication is what makes that first impression, and of course, reputation as well. So we drill a lot of nuanced stuff at the Art of Charm. And one of those things is, of course, posture, the way you sit, stand, walk, talk, eye contact, vocal tonality. Those things are just the beginning. And so one drill that I can give people who are listening now is we call it the doorway drill. And so what this is essentially your first impression is made right when people spot you, when you're a blip on their radar is what we say. So, and typically that would be when you walk into a room. So what we want to do is develop a habit. And that habit is every time you walk into a room, straighten up. Like you've got a string pulling on the back of your neck, pulling your head up, pull your chin up, pull your shoulders back. Not super exaggerated, but just back in a confident way, and put a smile on your face. And just do it manually. And do this all day, every day, no matter what. And this is the funny part, right? Because a lot of times it's like there's no one around and you're doing this literally just like in your room when you're going to the bathroom. But the thing is, we're building it into a habit. Because if you just try to do it when you have to go to a networking event, you're going to forget. It's going to become something that you think about instead of being present in the conversation. And that's a problem. So if we're doing it at home, it's really easy to continually, work on this type of thing at home, figure out, how to create a habit. And eventually you stop thinking about it completely. And that's great. That's exactly where you want to be. Because at that point, now every time you walk into a room, once you've got that habit, you've got a smile on your face, your chest is up, your chin is up, you're standing up straight. And then, of course, we start to work in other elements of first impression after we start to build that habit, too. Like when you're engaging with people, you have open body language, right? Things like that. And that's a huge, huge deal. That will change the way people perceive you. And why that becomes even better, of course, is because once people start to perceive you as a confident, cool person or charismatic person, they start treating you that way. And then when you get positive feedback from other people in that way, you start to become that way even more because you're getting positively rewarded for it at a subconscious level. And boom, if you can do that in as many areas of your life as possible, you're going to feel great and other people are going to treat you in a completely different way.
Yeah, and you hit something that I think is so overlooked and is to the detriment of so many people. There are a lot of people who might say to themselves, yeah, I get it. Yeah. Smile, shoulders back, totally, head up, totally, I get it. But then when you look at the actual practice of it, that's where the differential is. I had a conversation with a friend of mine yesterday. He's in the health and fitness business and has a really great business where he helps people. Not really per se. He doesn't subscribe to like a specific workout regimen and he's not trying to sell them a super fruit. He just basically consistently holds them accountable to going to the gym and not eating crap. And that's it. And he's like, if you do that, you will lose weight and you'll get into shape. So when you do it long enough, it becomes automatic. You don't have to think about, I have to go to the gym. It's just, okay, it's Tuesday. I go to the gym on Tuesday. We're going to the gym. But that only happens from rote routine, from continually doing it so that when you actually have to do it, it's not like you're plastering a fake smile on your face because it's coming from your core. And I think that continual practice of the process is what I just think is such an amazing takeaway. And I learned this too from a friend of mine pointed this out to me, and I thought it was a great analogy. I like to play basketball. I'm not the greatest player, but I really enjoy the sport, playing, watching. And he said, if you notice, before every single professional NBA game, all of the NBA players are in a layup drill where they're going to the basket and doing a layup. Like, these guys are NBA players. Like, they know how to make a layup. I promise you, if they wake up and they go up to do a layup, they'll hit it 10 out of 10 times. But they still practice these very simple and basic things, even at the highest level, right before a game, so that it becomes automatic. So in game time situations, they're not thinking about, oh, well, I don't want to like overshoot or over, strength my shot. I can just get it in with a nice soft touch. And what you said to me reminds me of that so much, that, even you, who has a lot of charm and has built this up, it's still something that you practice daily, even if you're home alone or even if you're at an event, so that when you need to turn it on, it's an automatic, it's just who you are. And when it becomes who you are, people say that's the type of person this person is, and therefore you get treated that way. So it's a great way to make that first impression by saying, as soon as I walk into the room, I'm going to have that string pull me up, shoulders back, big smile on my face, and you really make a great first impression that way.
Yeah, it is all, and I appreciate you saying that. It really is all about that habit, because it's important and it's clutch. The thing is, people go, smile, shoulders back, Jordan. Yeah, thanks for the thanks for the news there, buddy. Stand up straight. This is elementary crap. The thing is, it's not that. That's not the secret. The secret is internalizing it, having it become a part of you, getting that positive feedback from others so it becomes deeply ingrained about who you are, because then you're not acting confident anymore. You actually are confident. And so when you can take the nonverbal communication along with the zillion other things we're talking about at the Art of Charm that have to do with like integrity, keeping things organized, the way you sit, stand, walk, talk, eye contact, vocal tonality, all of those other elements, this changes who you are in an authentic way for the better. And that's kind of priceless, right?
Absolutely. And it's interesting how many people will look for they'll look for a unicorn. They was like, I need tell me this, like, if I utter these 7 words, it causes the brain to like fritz and, everyone loves me. And it's like, well, I don't know what that phrase is, if it exists. I don't know witchcraft, but I do know there are some things that work if you apply them. And I think that you're helping people internalize the things that work. And that's a very powerful idea. And I think that's why the Art of Charm is so popular, and why it's so powerful is because through the podcast, through the different boot camps that you do, people are getting to not, like you said, act as if they're confident, but become it. And when you can become it, that's when the magic starts happening. And I just think it's fantastic that and I've seen all these testimonials from different people who've built that from your podcast and from working with you. So it's just incredible to see that. And when these people, start being more confident and they start feeling like their body language is exactly where, it should be, and they're going out to help people, what do you see people do when, they're doing these things right, and then all of a sudden, they just go into this bad habit. They go into this thing that just keeps coming back, that messes people up. Is there something that you've noticed is a kind of kryptonite, if you will, to someone? Hey, they're doing all the things right, but they start doing this or they stop doing this, and that becomes their kryptonite. Have you experienced something like that?
Yeah, I think the key and a ton of people have experienced this as well, is a lot of times people will go, oh, okay, cool. I started to get some positive feedback from this. It feels really good, but now I feel like an imposter, so I'm going to stop doing it. And they self-sabotage because at some level, and this is deep into sort of Art of Charm territory or whatever, if you will, but it becomes like, oh, well, I don't deserve this, or I'm not used to this, or people are treating me in this way and I'm not used to that, so I'm going to stop doing it. And the problem is, it becomes your own mental blocks that keep you from getting what you want. And I might be getting a little woo-woo here, but that's a big problem if you're trying to get ahead and start a business and sell yourself and be charismatic. If you deep down really believe that that's not you, you're in trouble, and you got to fix that.
Yeah, the imposter syndrome. Like, no, I did. Like, this isn't really who I am. I'm a loser. I'm bad. And then you start doing the things to prove it. And it's funny how when we start thinking that and believing that, it starts becoming real.
Yeah.
And
And it can be a big problem if you let it go to your head. It can be a huge problem.
So what's one thing, let's say someone starts, they become self-aware enough to notice, I'm going down the negative self-talk, self-sabotage pathway, which I think a lot of us do. What would you recommend someone do to kind of snap themselves out of them and get them back on track?
That's a good question. If you find that you're consistently going about it, you got to realize this. It might not be who you were, but at the very top level, everybody has, or very bottom level rather, everybody has what they need already inside. It's a matter of unlocking it, and you're kind of the gatekeeper there. If you look at guys like Tony Robbins and Steve Jobs and stuff like that, all these sort of charismatic leader types. They all have the same pieces that you do. They've just decided to unlock their mental blocks. And so, even when you grow up, say you grow up and your brother's really outgoing and fun and everybody loves him and you're quiet. Well, you can basically decide to change that about yourself. You just haven't. So you can now at age 35 decide that you're going to start to unleash your potential, or you can decide to keep it bottled up. But don't go, oh, this isn't who I am, because you don't know who you are. And also who you are is consistently evolving. So whether or not you allow yourself to change for the better, then, that's up to you. Because all of us are getting older. All of us, can change and get better with age if we want to. But it's a conscious and intentional process. It's not something that happens by accident. Those of us that let life sort of take the reins and take us where it wants to go are usually not where they want to be at the end of the day, or at the end of the month and end of the year, or at the end of the whole thing. Right? It's the people who are intentional with it and are constantly working on themselves that are the ones that get ahead and get what they want.
Yeah, I mean, I think you said something that just really struck me. Is that, we're constantly evolving, that, people say, well, this isn't who I am. And, well, who you were when you were 15 years old is probably not who you are when you're 25 years old. And, you evolve and you change, and you can make the conscious decision of what life you want to live and what you want to do. And I think that the way that you do that is you can't do it, I think, by yourself. And I'm a big advocate in mentorship. I'm a big advocate in constantly learning. I read books all the time. I listen to audio programs. I go to lots of live events, because I know if I want something that I haven't had, I have to do something I've never done before. And you can make the decision to, hey, I'm not good at finances. I don't know numbers. I'm not good at it. Well, that's just a community college course away, or that's just a, book or whatever away from learning, because I'm a big believer that everything that we want to learn, someone else has done, created a way for you to replicate it. And all you have to do is find that right person. So if people wanted to find more about what's happening with the Art of Charm, if they want to subscribe to your podcast, where would you recommend people go to get some of these amazing strategies and these amazing ideas that you put out that people can easily use and share with others?
I would say just, check out the Art of Charm podcast, whatever thing you're using to listen to this show. Check out the Art of Charm podcast. There's hundreds of episodes there. They're free. And, then from there, if guys are interested in working with us in person, give us a call in the office, and the contact info is there, or email me. I'm jordanh@theartofcharm.com. And, there's plenty there for everybody. But I'd say start with the podcast. I mean, that's when you can start to filter in some of the free stuff, prove to yourself that it works, and then, come on through.
Yeah, and I think that's what's the key, is that for people who say, oh, man, well, I don't have a lot, or I don't have this. I'm like, there's always amazing options. There's the library, which has free books. There's your podcast, which is completely free. And there's literally hundreds of hours of content that people can dive into. And it's just a matter of making the decision to say, I want to become the best version of myself. I want to listen to good content, put good stuff into my head, and it's out there, and you just have to go out there and find it. And if there's something that evolves from it, fantastic, but it can't evolve until you make that decision. And I think people listening to The Art of Likeability on this podcast are the type of people that realize, wow, I can build a better life. I can make myself better. And whatever way I can do that, by saying, okay, let me practice the strategy of making introductions to people, using a long play. Let me focus on my body language, not just say, yeah, I got that, but consciously look in the mirror and say, how am I standing? How am I smiling? How are my shoulders and open body language with your hands out? How is that being done for me, and how can I do that even better, and how can I practice it? And I think once we start thinking we're good and we're perfect the way we are, that's when all of the life's problems start getting in the way. But all the stuff that you talked about, I think are actionable. I think they're applicable, and no matter who you are, no matter how good you are, you can incorporate them to become better. So I'm just so appreciative that you took some time to hang out with us on the Art of Likeability. And I know that you are just a crazy busy guy, and you're going all over the country with what you're doing. So I just want to say thank you so much for taking some time to share some really, really strong strategies and mental strategies for becoming the best versions of ourselves, becoming more likable and becoming more charming.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity. This is a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Well, listen, everyone, thank you for listening. Please go ahead, and if you have not done so yet, on a whim, if you found this podcast, go ahead and subscribe so you can get our episodes hot and fresh out the oven. Cookies are better out the oven. So is this podcast. Give it a 5-star rating if you are enjoying the interviews and the short form content that we're doing. And make sure to hit me up on Twitter. I've been getting just amazing messages from people on Facebook, on Twitter, email. So please, if you have ideas, if you have feedback, we love to provide content to you that's valuable to you. So shoot me a tweet at Arel Moody. Hit me up on Facebook. I have a weird name. I'm the only Arel Moody in the world, ARELMOODIE. So it's very easy to find me. If you can't find me, you're not looking. So shoot me an email at info@artoflikeability.com, and we'd love to hear from you. And as always, likability is something that can build better relationships. Relationships lead to better success and happiness. And if you don't want success and happiness, you are listening to the wrong podcast. Sending you a big old high five. You are awesome.
Thanks for listening to The Art of Likeability. Please remember to subscribe to the podcast for more awesome info on how you can improve your likability and improve your life. Until next time, remember,